What makes us humans different from animals? I mean, why is it that I could take a rock, call that rock Steve, chuck it at the wall, and it could smash into a million pieces, and each and every one of us would sympathize with that rock? Well, that's just it, isn't it? I mean, as humans, we're a lot different from animals because we sympathize with that rock. Animals would call it quits. But I guess we've actually never really learned that word because we don't ever give up. It's not over till it's over, said Yogi Berra. Now I want you guys to think for a second. Go really, really far back into history to the Trojan War. You know how long that war lasted? 10 years. Half of us can't sit for 10 minutes and listen to me speak. Imagine fighting a war for 10 years. Now, under those same guidelines, do you know why that war lasted for so long? Because neither side would give up. Both the Trojans and the Mycenaeans, or the Greeks, kept fighting, no matter how many people died. That literally wasn't over until that whole city was burned to the ground under a clever trick. Next, I want you guys to think about an author. His name was Richard Wright. Richard Wright actually published some of the greatest books that we could read today, like Native Son and Blackboard. But he never gave up on his writing career, though he came out with commercial flops. He came out with some of the worst books that we've ever read too. In fact, he didn't honestly get famous until he was around 30, 35 years old. His first 3-4 books, horrible. He should have quit. In fact, I kind of wish he quit, because he went through a lot and he suffered a lot to be a great author. But now we know him as a famous author, and most of us study him in school. Richard Wright is essentially what we like to think of as a modern role model. For him, it literally wasn't over until it was over. He died in the middle of his last book. That book has not been completed. We don't know what his thought process was, but it's been released. Lastly, I want to tell you a story that I think a lot of you are familiar with. It's about a man named Kapoor Singh, who runs Ivy Gurukul. Now, how many of you know how Ivy Gurukul became like a company? It started a few years ago, when Kapoor Singh was actually a civil engineer, and the economy went south. He needed a new job, and he decided to put his faith and his life into this company, into teaching public speaking. Public speaking isn't something that people are exactly lining up to learn, like math or English. But it's a skill that each and every one of us need, right? I mean, look at me, for example. I'm standing here giving a speech. Now, just like that, Kapoor Singh put his whole life into the company. He spent all of his money. And, in his words, his wife called him crazy. But he went ahead and did it anyway. He went ahead and came up with a huge company with over 200 students today. You know what he started? He started by advertising and handing out flyers in Bridgewater Temple. Now, coming off that, his company, the life he built, it was under his guidelines. It was under his own rules. He said, it's not over until I say it's over. It's not over until I make this company happen. And as you can all tell today, he was pretty successful. Each and every one of us live by our own guidelines. Each and every one of us come up with our own rules. That being said, each and every one of us has the power to say, it's not over until it's over. Thank you.
Okay, that's the last speech in this speeches category. We're going to move to debates now. Judges, mark the scores, give me the score sheets. Anyone else?
message should invention speakers read?
Huh? Ah, okay, come put, we're waiting for you. Okay, go ahead now.
Thank you.
Okay, also remember, all of you, anytime I mention it is the Eastern time zone. So when I give a time, that's Eastern every time because this is common to everyone. So it's difficult for me to keep track of everyone's time zone. So in future, make sure anytime I mention anytime, it's always Eastern time. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Christian. Hello, my name is Kopich.